Hello RPG fans and welcome back to the kingdom! This is the next video in the series from a challenge run perspective where I review games that I've played and or done challenge runs of to determine if this game is challenge run worthy. For some challenge run examples, please check the description below for challenge runs that I have done. The categories that I'll be going over in this video include the platform that I am doing the review on, game difficulty settings, which includes actual game difficulty settings as well as the overall game's balance, game mechanics, which includes combat and non-combat, customization options, which includes menuing, variety of challenges, which includes types of challenge runs and boss fights / special encounters, and last but not least, replayability. And we will see if this game is challenge run approved. Reviewing iamsetsuna from a challenge runner's perspective. iamsetsuna is available on several platforms such as the PlayStation 4, PlayStation Vita, PC, and Nintendo Switch, and I will be reviewing the PC version. iamsetsuna is the same game across all the platforms. No platform has one advantage over the other in terms of gameplay, game difficulty, options. Everything is the same across the board, which is absolutely fantastic. So the platform category gets a +1. Next up is the game difficulty options. For the actual game difficulty settings, there is no easy, normal, or hard mode for this game. However, about 60% of the way through the game, there is a NPC that is accessible with the airship that can increase all of the mobs' HP, and the purpose of this is so that way you have the ability or a higher chance to get exact kills on the mobs. I won't be going over what exact kills are as this is just a review video, and going on to the game balance, this is a little bit of a weird one. So since no one other than myself has really done challenge runs of this game, I feel like the game balancing was pretty in line, if not harder than what it should have been from a solo character perspective. If you are using a full party with no restrictions, you are going to have a very easy time with this game. Now, if you are to use restrictions like no skills or no combos while still having a full party, I'm not sure how the difficulty would be, but I would still imagine that you're going to have a little bit of a hard time just because of the amount of damage output that you won't be able to do. So as for the game difficulty options, this category only gets 1 of 2 points from me. Next up is game mechanics part 1, which is combat. I would probably go so far as to say about 50% of the game's difficulty is the combat system, and then the other half would be the non-combat of the game mechanics. So with the combat, a lot of the damage output that is taken from bosses doesn't so much depend on what level you are. It mostly depends on what kind of Spritnite, talismans, weapons that you have equipped on your character or characters. Now, granted, level does still play somewhat of a role in there, but a majority of the damage output, damage receiving, healing done, etc. does revolve around what you have equipped in combat. Another slight portion of the combat is the skills and techs or abilities that you can use in combat. So for me, I did a solo character, so that means I cannot use any combos that have anything to do with any other characters. So everything that Ender has by himself is the only thing that I can use throughout my entire playthrough, and that in itself makes it extremely difficult. So as far as combat, this does get a +1 from me. However, the opposite is true with non-combat game mechanics. So let's dive a little bit more into why I'm not going to give this a point. So while there is stuff that does affect the game's difficulty slightly, it's more so just tedious things that have to do with the non-combat, such as the shops you could buy items. However, you could also find those items from certain mobs. So if you are to not use shops, you could just decide to grind mobs over and over. Now, granted, that doesn't really add difficulty, it's just tediousness, in my opinion. You could also choose not to use the NPC to fully heal yourself. Again, that would just require you to grind more mobs for more dropped items, and you might have to change your combat strategy up a little bit to where you can replenish your MP in combat instead of using items. It still doesn't really increase the difficulty. Again, it's just more tedious work. There is food ingredients that you can gather throughout the zones, and you can turn those food ingredients into a proper meal via one of the chefs inside a town, and you can get some buffs. Now, those buffs, they do play a decently important role only when it comes to boss fights though. But if you want the food to be beneficial, then you would still need to kind of keep your level a little bit low to make use of the food buff. Otherwise, you can just continue to level up and probably outstat whatever problem that you're going to face. So you don't have to use the food, but it is there. So overall, the game mechanics category only gets 1 of 2 points. And on to customization options with menuing. The menuing is one of the biggest portions in this game besides the combat that can really affect the difficulty. So for example, the text that each character can do is dependent on what kind of Spritnite stones each character has equipped. There are 133 different possible combinations across double and triple combos that I never got to have access to in my challenge run. So yeah, that was a thing. There's also Spritnites themselves, which are essentially, you can treat them like gems from any other RPG that you slot into your gear. And those gems provide certain bonuses on certain skills. And that is going to really determine if you're going to beat a boss or not beat a boss. And feel free to check out my iamsetsuna solo ender run, and you can see exactly what I'm referring to. Additionally, the talismans are kind of like your equipment or accessories that you can have, and those also determine what kind of Spritnite stones you can have equipped. And the accessories can also give certain bonuses to your character as well. Like you have an extra ability to dodge, or you gain more fluxation rate, you can gain more static defenses, you can gain your momentums quicker. There's a lot of options depending on what kind of rule set you want to run with. You can also change which weapon you have your character or characters equipped with. For the most part, you do want to equip whichever one gives you the highest damage, but there are some circumstances to where you want to equip a lesser weapon just because it has either an elemental effect or a certain debuff attached to the weapon that the boss or special mob can be inflicted with. There's also the party menu, which is where you can add or remove certain party members. And this gives you a lot of flexibility if you want to do a solo run, duo run, or just stick with 3 people and then do further limitations from there. And so this category absolutely gets both points, mostly because of the Spritnite system. The next category of variety of challenges split into 2 parts: types of challenge runs from a viewer and runner's perspective, and boss fights / special encounters. I feel like this entire category is very subjective to the individual person. So before I do a challenge run, I always spend multiple hours trying to research previous challenge runs that have already been done so I don't duplicate a challenge run. But when it came to iamsetsuna, there wasn't a single challenge run that I was able to find about this game. So that means that this game was not well received at all in any way, shape, or form. So from a viewer's perspective, it would probably be a 0 in terms of interest because there's nothing out there. And also with my own challenge run, it also didn't get very much traction. So I also know from firsthand experience that people just don't really care about this game. Now, from a runner's perspective, this game is really good for challenge running. I have a list of about 15 different ideas in my notepad that I could eventually get to if this game were to get more traction, or just my channel in general. With doing a solo ender run, I thought it was impossible until I did it. So yeah, take that, internet. Anyways, enough gloating. With the boss fights and special encounters. So there are optional bosses, and there is one, I guess, super boss, maybe 2. I don't really do post-game content, mainly because I don't really find it enjoyable or interesting, but there are special encounters, as well as at least one super boss for post-game content, and those bosses are hard. I remember just doing my regular playthrough back when the game released, and I had a very difficult time with a full party and no restrictions, just a regular casual playthrough. Now, the boss fights in this game can absolutely be a wall or very difficult, again, depending on your rule set. If you are using 3 characters and you're not using skills or techniques, you're probably going to have a difficult time, which of course is also the idea of a challenge run, to prove that something is beatable, and it's great from a viewer perspective. Now, that probably might not be fun from a runner's perspective, but hey, a challenge run is a challenge run. So this overall category of variety of challenges gets a capitalized +2 from me. And the last category is replayability. I feel like this category is really subjective, also based on the runner's perspective. So because of me doing a challenge run of this game and I didn't find any other challenge runs out there, I found and created a lot of different types of rules for multiple playthroughs if I were to do more of this game. Now, from my own personal experience, I would absolutely give this a +1. Now, with this type of review, I'm not going over the gameplay, the story, the music, none of that. It's strictly from a challenge runner's perspective, and there is a lot of replayability with this type of game, and especially with having 7 different characters to choose from. So replayability, for my opinion, yes, please, +1. And this brings our total score to an 8 out of 10. If you're surprised, please feel free to let me know in the comments. I'd be curious to see what you think about it. And this game is challenge run approved. Thank you all so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video, and please let me know what you think of this video in the comments. I strive to do challenge runs that no one else has done for a game. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Additionally, if you want to go above and beyond that, consider joining my Patreon or YouTube channel's membership with the join option next to my name below the video. And until then, I will catch you in the next review. Bye bye.